we are talking about, curriculum design and instructional materials, the role of and the use of instructional materials. So when we talk about instructional materials, the very notion of authenticity or authentic materials and created materials flash to our minds, right? We'll now see some what authentic materials mean and what created materials mean. We'll also see their advantages and some of their limitations. And the reason why we are talking about, authentic versus created materials is they will provide us information while making decisions about, about choosing an existing course book, adopting or adapting an existing course book, or if we are implementing a curriculum in the context where we need to create our own materials. So what implications could be involved and how we could create our materials. Okay. Authentic, as you could see here, they refer to the texts which are not specifically prepared for or written for language teaching classrooms. They are not prepared for pedagogical purposes, in other words. On the other hand, created materials are specifically, written, developed, and they are produced to teach the language, right? Authentic and created. Authentic could come in the, for example, in the shape of, selecting texts from the magazines or television programs or internet. And on the other hand, the created, for example, textbooks for, in a national context, textbooks for class 9th and 10th, that's the published, the created materials that have been produced for specific purpose in mind. Okay, there are various arguments, and some are in favor of authentic materials, and some are against, authentic materials. So we'll continue to discuss these arguments in our, coming modules. But let's first look at the advantages of authentic materials. One of the advantages is they, tend to have positive impact on learners' motivation, because the learners are intrinsically motivated and they know what they are going to learn. Okay. Secondly, they provide information about the target culture. So, for example, if a teacher want to expose her students to the target culture of English language, she might bring in some movies, or she might bring in some tasks based on authentic materials, just to give a flavor of about the culture of the target language. And they also could provide, they might provide exposure to the real language. I mean, the language taking place in the real world as compared to the language produced for English for specific purposes. Okay. And another advantage is they provide, they could they could meet the changing needs of the learners, and they could also provide, an assistance to teachers to create or innovate their teaching, bring in some tasks and activities which they couldn't find in the prescribed textbooks. Okay. There are some limitations of authentic materials. We'll briefly go through these ones. They might be, produced for students who are in the advanced level. They might not be suitable for, students in the elementary level, because they might be struggling with, the culture of the language or the social aspects of the language. And they might be a burden for teachers. Authentic materials are seen to be burdensome for teachers because once the teachers are required to create materials, so it means they need to invest more time outside the classroom to create materials. And as I said here before, like authentic materials are seen to be more suitable for advanced level students. So there could be issues of language faced by students in the initial stages of language learning. And one of the advantages of created materials, the argument is they are also motivating for the learners like the authentic materials, because this also gives them a way of learning language in a systematic, planned, and prescribed way, right? So while making decisions, the reason why we have briefly discussed this, while making decisions between authentic and created material, so we need to be very, we need to make wise and informed judgments what we are choosing and what's its usefulness for our learners. So I would be sort of a mixed sort of person, making balance between the created and authentic materials, because it depends upon the context. I mean, we are not concerned about the bad elements attached to authentic or bad elements attached to created materials. Rather, we need to be aware of the context of our learners and their needs. So while making decisions about, choosing authentic or created materials, creators are obviously out there for us to follow and use in the classroom, but we need to make, informed judgments about authentic materials. I mean, to choose materials which suit the, religious, cultural, or social sensitivities of the learners.